Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gustavo Gordillo from Business Recovery Center and Impact Beaverton. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This webinar is part of an ongoing weekly info session where the business owners learn from professionals and expert tips and strategies for growing their businesses. Today, we are the honored to host our presenter, Dr. Tekle, with a great topic about importing fundamentals. The presentation will be recorded and later available via Impact Beaverton YouTube channel as a resource for small businesses. We will also make the Spanish audio available through our talented interpreter, Jessica Dower. Joining us today, gracias, Jessica. After the presentation, we will open up for question and answer. So everyone feel comfortable to make any questions. As the presentation rolls, please put your questions in the chat box and we will do our the best to address every one of them. So we can start, Dr. Tekle, and welcome again.
Well, thank you very much, Gustavo, and thank you very much for everybody who is joining us. And this, especially during the holiday, we all are busy at this time of the year. Yeah. Just a kind of 2 days to Thanksgiving. So I appreciate for joining us, and thank you, Gustavo, as well for that introduction. Now, what I plan to do is more or less, if we can have more question and answer session, that would be very, very helpful, I think, to you. Any question that you have in mind and that you thought you were going to ask before, but maybe you didn't have a chance to do that. It would be great if you can just make it more kind of interactive so that we can learn more rather than just me talking all the time. But certainly I do have some slides that I want to go through, which I think is important in my view, because there are certain things that you have to know as an importer. Not only for yourself, but also customs expects you to know some of the concepts and some of the terminologies that we are going to talk about. So let's just jump in, and also as a brief way of a disclaimer, this is just for your information. It's not like a kind of a legal advice or even more or less customs assistance and so forth. It's just for your information, and you want to just definitely verify that as well when you take any action. With that in mind, what I'm going to talk about is definitely on the terminologies and some of the concepts. And this is what basically what we are going to go through if we have some time. And as Gustavo said before, the question and answer session is, I think, is critical. It would help you, and definitely more or less, rather than just like I said before, me talking. So we'll talk about that, the most common questions that I have been asked by importers, the role also that U.S. Customs plays in importing. And also the role of custom house brokers. Custom house brokers, we'll talk a little bit more in detail because they are very important partners for an importer, because they can help you to clear smoothly the goods through customs. And then we'll talk about the overview of the import process. Where does it start and where does it end? That's something also that you want to know. And also what documents you need. Documents are very important. In fact, importing and exporting is all about documents. You got to get the documents right. If you don't get the documents right, then the goods are not going to be released to you. And it can be very, very costly. So you want to know what documents are important for your specific product. I mean, there's lots and lots of documents. In a typical transaction, it can be from like 30 to 40 documents that are getting involved. You might not see some of the documents, but these are exchanged between banks to bank, between the customs broker to customs, and then the documents that you have to complete yourself. So it can be overwhelming at the beginning, but certainly we will touch bases on the key documents that you need to know. And then we'll talk about, country and also products, possibly some ideas as to where you can import from and the type of products that you need. And of course, the question and answer session. Okay, with that, we will just move on to the basic questions that I have been asked. And if you were to ask any consultant or any knowledgeable or little knowledge of importing, these are pretty much that come first before the importing process starts. Do I need a company? Like, for example, do I have to have a corporation or an LLC or S Corp? No, you don't have to have a company. You as an individual, you can, of course, import. Do I need a license to import? Well, there is no federal government agency that issues a broad import license. What many importers get confused is in many countries, in many South American countries, in African countries, in Asia, that the importer will obtain a license to import products from the federal government so that they can import or even export in some cases. But in the US, that's not the way it works. It's a little bit different. What you need a license for is if your product is one of the products that require a permit or a license or a certificate. Now, you get that license or permit or certificate from the government agency that regulates that product. Let's say, for example, if you are going to import agricultural products, then you have to obtain a permit or a license from the Department of Agriculture, okay? That's only if one agency within the US government. Let's say, for example, if you were to import alcoholic beverage, then you will deal with the alcohol beverage control, and that is the FDA, and also another agency which is Department of Treasury. So you're going to be dealing with two government agencies if you are going to import with alcoholic beverages because of the regulations. So that's the way it works. In most cases, like textile products or apparel products, you probably are not going to need going to the specific a trade agency or so to obtain a license. You can import them, provided that you comply with all the other requirements. So as a license is a little bit tricky compared to the licenses that we might think in other countries, but you still have to comply with the government agency. When I say government agency, I'm talking about the Department of Agriculture, the Food and Drug Administration, or FCC, Federal Communication Commission, and so forth. Okay. Now, the second question that I often being asked is, can I do it without outside assistance? Meaning, can I do it myself? yes, you can do it yourself, but certainly you want to know what you are doing. That's the key, because it's not because somebody else, your friend or a relative, have cleared customs that you can clear customs as well. You know, maybe for some reasons that individual have cleared customs because he got the help or he completed the correct documents and so on and so on, and wasn't maybe examined, that customs didn't check the products to make sure that the paperwork complies with the product. But definitely it can be overwhelming, and you will need to know more, I should say, about importing as far as the process is concerned, about the documents are concerned, and so forth, so that you can benefit from that. We'll talk a little bit about the outside assistance, about custom house brokers in a bit detail, because they are very important partners, specifically for the first, second, or maybe even third transactions, to hire them and to help you doing it the right way. Then you can make a decision whether you want to continue to do it or not yourself. All right, the last one is the countries and products that I can import. You might have a product or a country in mind. That would be good. Instead of looking up for products and countries, you know, on the internet and so on. If you have a contact, definitely you want to take advantage of that as far as, you know, supplier is concerned, because you have a relationship with them, and they know you, maybe possibly, and the transaction can go smoother, but you still have to comply with customs regulations. Okay, now certain these things that I want to talk about, because there is a little bit of misunderstanding as to some of these terminologies. When you import, you're going to hear these terms quite often. So I want to just quickly go over and explain what exactly each of these are, because these are part of the importing process. So you have to have some kind of idea when you import. Again, if you don't do it yourself, meaning that the expert that's helping you, let's say a custom house broker, keep all these things in mind to clear the goods. So let's start with the first one, duty or tax. Sometimes we get confused. We say, how much tax am I going to pay, and so on. What is duty? Duty is actually a tax, all right, that you pay to customs, and that's the language that they use. You know, they talk about duty, right? In some cases, in some countries, that duty is tax. They call it tax. So it's just a matter of region, or in a matter of countries as to how they use it. Usually we say customs uses duty because tax, sometimes we associate with income tax or property tax and so on. That's not the case, right? That we're talking about customs duty. So you might as well use the word duty instead of tax. Okay, we can expand on this later on. Now, the second item is importer on record. Importer on record is you. Okay, you might hire somebody to help you import those goods, but you are still responsible for that specific transaction. Customs is going to go after you if there is an issue, even if you hire a custom house broker that we will talk about, okay? Because you are responsible. You are an importer on record, meaning you are responsible for everything as far as the process is concerned, even though you had gained it, or you have help, you get help from someone. Okay, and the third item is entry. Entry is a process of filing documents to clear the goods. There are certain documents that you have to present to customs, like invoice, like bill of lading. We'll talk about those in a little bit detail, or country of origin certificate, and so on and so on. So you have this documents generally as referred as entry. So when customs says what are the entry documents, then customs forms. In addition to that, you have to provide them the invoice and other documents as well. It's just a language that customs use, and you definitely want to be aware of this, because if you are aware of this, customs gives you some kind of a credit in a way that you have done your homework or your due diligence before you try to import. And then the fourth one is liquidation. Liquidation is when the process ends with customs. It's the last step. After the goods are liquidated, that means customs probably might not have any interest. They're not going to go back to ask you unless they have specific reasons to ask you. So take it like liquidation is the last stop with customs. After that, you are, of course, home free. So it is something that you need to be aware, because customs releasing the goods to you, that doesn't mean it's all over. I mean, they still can come back and ask you a question. But if it is liquidated, then unless they have other specific reasons that's not associated with that product, or it could be even with that product, then they are not going to come, ask more questions as well. The other thing that I think which is very important, specifically when we talk about countries to choose, is to select the regional trade agreement. They call them RTAs. These are countries that you probably are familiar with, like USMCA, United States, Mexico, and Canada trade agreement. Okay, there is a reason for that trade agreement. The reason mainly is to reduce the taxes or the tariff that you pay or the duty that you pay. In addition to that, also less restrictions as far as moving goods are concerned. Okay, so it's very important that you want to look at countries that have trade agreement with the United States. We'll talk about them briefly also, as we did last time, but the Central American trade agreement, DR-CAFTA, which is also very important, that covers many Central American countries, but certainly Mexico and Canada is through the USMCA. Another thing that we have to be aware also is the Generalized System of Preference, GSP, which is very important when it comes to reduced duty. Okay, not as far as restrictions is concerned, like USMCA, but definitely there are countries that the United States gives privilege to import goods into the United States with low or no tariff. Most of these countries, in fact, almost all of them, are developing countries. Developing countries meaning what we call a third world countries, okay? And the United States wants to give them some kind of privilege so that they can get a piece of the pie, so to speak, of the US market, in which otherwise they wouldn't have, because their taxes might be high, and if the taxes are high or the duties are high, then they might not be competitive in the US market. All right, so that's something to be aware if you can get a country between that have a regional trade agreement, or if you can identify a country with a generalized system of preference, that will be great. Another one is a quota. A quota is a limit on how much you can import from that country, okay? So you wanna know if the quota is full or not. Okay, if it's full because it cannot be entering into the United States because the maximum has already been reached. So you want to definitely have an idea, or have a conversation also if you hire a customs broker as to how far the quota is, if there is any quota. Okay, all right. The other thing is anti-dumping duty. anti-dumping duty, of course, as I said before, is a fee that you pay for customs, like a tariff, right? Anti-dumping is what happens is in some countries, their product is so cheap, okay, they will send it into the United States, and it will compete more with the US because it's less expensive. What this means is the cost of the product, okay, in the original or the origin country. Let's say, for example, if the cost of the product in Mexico is, when you buy it, is lower than what the cost of the product is in Mexico. So that means the product was dumped into the United States, okay? And that creates unfair competition in the US. So you definitely want to be aware of a product that's very low compared to that of a competitor to see whether the products were dumped into the US or not. The other thing is countervailing duty. Countervailing duty is when the government of the exporter subsidizes the product, okay? That's not permitted under, I guess, the WTO convention. So that you cannot, the government cannot assist an exporter to lower their price to in the importer's country. So when that happens, then the customs would add tax to it to make it to the level where it should be. And the last one is customs bonds. Customs bonds are more or less like a deposit that you post with customs when you have, let's say, more than $2,500 in value. Customs might ask you to post a bond, and that bond will be used just in case you didn't pay the right amount, or you didn't complete the country of origin for whatever reason, and there is a penalty they will use that bond. So it's like you put a deposit. If there isn't any problem, then the bond will not be exercised. You still get your bond back, okay? So these are some concepts. They might be kind of, new to you if you are not familiar, but it's something to be aware. And most often customs expects you to have some idea about this, not to be an expert, but know what they are. And if the question comes up, then you can tell them, well, this is what I did. I read about entry. I read about what the duty is. I know that I am the importer on record, and so on, if they ask you a question. All right, moving on to the next slide. Okay, what do I need to be successful in importing? That's a kind of a loaded question, and which can be very difficult to answer. There's a lot of things that you need to know. And definitely, especially at the beginning, it can be a little bit overwhelming. What I suggest is to, have some idea about these 4 key elements. One is planning. Have some kind of a plan. It doesn't necessarily have to be a full-blown business plan, but you have a plan for that, what you are going to do, how much you have, as far as funds is concerned, definitely who is going to help you, how you're going to market your product, just a general idea once the product is imported. So plan is, of course, a huge topic by itself, but there are organizations like PRC or SCORE or other agencies also that can help you for that, to create some kind of a plan. If you want a full-blown business plan, that will be also important, and they will be able to assist with that as well. The second one is commitment. Okay, don't expect to get a good results right away. It's just takes time. The first shipment that you did might be a little bit shaky, and the second one might be a little better, but hopefully the third one will be easier. I'm hearing some sound, I guess, in the background. Yeah. Okay, now it's clear. The third one is relationship. Of course, this is very important. It takes some time to build a relationship if you don't have any relationship with the seller, but certainly try to build that. I mean, talk to them by phone or text them or email them, not just by just one mode of communication. I mean, use several tools that are available to communicate with them so that you know what exactly your needs are and you know also what their needs are. So definitely try to build that relationship. A relationship, of course, always is not easy to build. But in time, it can be very rewarding. At the end is knowledge, and that's basically what we are trying to do here. All the things that we are talking about is to build or increase our knowledge so that we will make less mistakes, right? Instead of at the beginning making a big mistake and say, forget it, I'm not going to go and do it. No, you can do it. But you have to be more knowledgeable, and you cannot expect to be a lot knowledgeable, but some of the basic things that we are talking about definitely could go a long way in helping you to build up your knowledge and your skills as far as importing is concerned. Okay, now let's quickly cover some of the roles. I mentioned the custom house brokers. Custom house brokers are licensed by U.S. Customs to conduct transaction, meaning they can help you with how much duty you pay. They can help you with classification. Classification, of course, is identifying the number that goes with your product. The Customs expects you to know that. And to give them the classification number. The admissibility is what we've talked about before, whether the product can be admitted into the country, whether it requires a license or a permit or a certificate for that specific product from that specific government agency that regulates the product. And then the last one here, as far as the role of customs brokers, is a marking. The marking is labeling your product. It's made in Mexico, made in Guatemala, or made in Honduras. All this is definitely required. The product have to be labeled in a way that a consumer can see and make a decision whether they want to purchase it or not. Okay. In addition to that, quickly, they also help in terms of documents, like I said before, like an invoice, the packing slip, and also maybe bill of lading, or if it's an airway bill. The bonds that we've talked about, and the packaging, of course, is very important also, because there might be some instructions that you have to put on the package that customs will require. Customs bonds, again, is bonds, the deposit, which is important, but customs brokers can help you that. I mean, you don't have to obtain the bond yourself. And lastly is the warehouse and distribution services. Some of them, they are big customs house brokers, and they have a warehouse, they have a distribution center, when they can distribute your product into the final destination. Now, for them to do it, you have to give them a power of attorney, as you can see here. A power of attorney is they will be working on your behalf. But remember, ultimately, you are responsible of the product. You are an importer on record, right? Or importer of record. So it is your responsibility, even though they are helping you, because similar to IRS, right? When you file our taxes, like April 15, I think, what happens is we might hire an accountant or somebody who can help us, right? And they help us complete the form, right? But if there is any issue, the IRS is not going to go after the person who complete that form, right? The IRS is going to go after you, right? After the taxpayer. So think in terms of that. I don't know if this is a right analogy, but certainly that applies as far as the principle is concerned. that you can relate it. So you are ultimately responsible, but they will help you to that. Now, there is a fee, of course, that's associated with it. And I think the first and second and third shipment, I really think that you should consider importing. After that, you will know what they do. And if you decide to do it yourself, then you can do it yourself. But highly recommended that at least get their service at the beginning. Okay, now the other agency, of course, the big agency, which is a federal government agency, is the U.S. Customs, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. They regulate both importing and exporting at 320 ports of entry, both inland, air, and also sea or ocean. The other function, as far as regulating is concerned, is they assess the duties what we talked about, and fees also, if there are any fee like merchandise processing fee. But they collect the taxes, or the what the other countries call taxes, but what we call or refer it as duty here. Within the U.S. Customs, there is a department called Center of Excellence and Expertise. Okay, these are located in about, I think, about 10 regions of the United States. In each region, almost in each region, there are centers. And these centers, what they do is they specialize, like some of them are in agriculture, some of them are in technology, some of them are in textile products or apparel products, and so forth. So whatever your product falls, you can contact this Center of Excellence and Expertise to provide you some assistance, as to how you can import your product. They might ask you some questions to provide them answers, and definitely it would be very, very helpful. And then they can give you even the harmonized tariff schedule number, the HS number, the product code that I mentioned before. They will be able to suggest to you, provided that you import that same product, then you most likely would not have that much of an issue. But definitely what they tell you, you have to do it, and you have to comply. You might complete a form to contact them, because they might ask you. You can speak to them. In fact, at the end of the slides, I have their phone number, and also I believe their website, and also their email address. But I would call them and talk to them, to the agency. This is a product that I want to import. What do I need? Okay, and then they will probably give you, provided that you give them a specific detail about your product, then they might be able to help you at a better point. Don't just tell them, I'm trying to import a textile product. Okay, what kind of textile product? What is it made? Okay, where it is made? Where is the cotton made, for example, for that textile product, or where the cotton grew? That it could be from a different country, move it into the factory in another country, and ship it to the United States. Well, the origin could be in the first country that the cotton grew. So all kinds of detail as you can. If you provide them the information, I guess they will be in a better position to help you. All right. One of the things that well, I guess, that's so much about the U.S. Customs. There's a lot we can talk, but certainly I would leave it to that in the interest of time as well. Is the MOD Act, Customs Modernization Act, and this is very important for customs, because they expect you. This change took place in 1993. The last time the law was changed in 1930s, many years ago. Now, what this means in a simple way is customs expects you to exercise a reasonable care, meaning you have to do your due diligence or you have to do your homework before you approach customs. Okay, and those things that we were talking about before, hiring a customs brokers, is you are exercising a reasonable care. Going to their website, to the Center of Excellence and Expertise, you are exercising a reasonable care. Okay, all those things that we were talking about is exercising a reasonable care. That's good if you do that. So if you do that, then the goods most likely are not going to be, if you don't do that, the goods most likely are not going to be released. But if you do that, if they think that you have exercised a reasonable care, and then they will release the goods faster. If you don't exercise a reasonable care, they might also assess a penalty. Okay, so that because you didn't do your due diligence. The last one is if it's something criminal that they think that the importer is doing, then they would refer to the enforcement agencies that handles that. Okay, so do your homework, meaning exercise a reasonable care by going to a customs website, by if possibly hiring a customs broker, and also understand how an invoice works, or what an invoice is, and what are the contents that should be in the invoice for customs to release the goods, and so forth. So it's a very important concept, exercising a reasonable care. Customs expects you. Why do they do that? Okay, one, if you exercise a reasonable care, they benefit. Okay, because they are using less resources. They are not just trying to explain you and then another one also to explain, and so forth. So their resources is saved in a way. The benefit for you or for the importer is you will be less likely your shipment to be examined. Okay, less likely your shipment to be examined, meaning they're not going to scrutinize you if you weren't exercising a reasonable care. Okay, few of the things that shows that you are exercising a reasonable care is accurate transaction documents like invoice, packing list, and so on that we've talked about. Identifying the harmonized tariff schedule, which is a code for the product that you are importing, which sometimes could be very, very difficult, even for customs brokers. It can be difficult. You definitely want to have some idea. Okay, if you provide the officers at the Center of Excellence and Expertise with a number, then they might suggest another number, or they might give you another number so that you will get it right. But at least you have tried it, or you have used you have exercised a reasonable care. Duty assessment, that means how much taxes, how much tariff you're going to pay, or how much duty you're going to pay. Okay, the duty, like we said, is an exchangeable word with other countries, which is they call it tax. Marking is labeling of your product, and the last one, other government agency requirements, are the agencies that we have talked about: the FDA, the FCC, or the Federal Communication Commission. The FDA is the Food and Drug Administration, Department of Agriculture, and so forth, whatever government agency regulates that product. But most of the products that are imported into the United States don't apply these regulations. They're, as long as they comply with other documents and so on, you might not need other government agency. But if you're importing food-related products or something that applies to the skin or taken internally, then you have to expect that you will need to get a license or a permit from the government agency that requires that governs that product. Okay, quickly about who can make entry as far as entry is concerned, meaning who can make the process or got through the process of entering goods into the United States, you as an owner, or if you are purchasing, then you you can file for an entry. A custom house broker can help you on that, or individual with power of attorney, or some relative, or someone. If you give them a power of attorney, they can be able to clear customs on your behalf. All right, now let me just quickly talk about the transaction process. This is a transaction process. It's not a customs entry process, because they are two different things. The transaction process is basically your transaction with the seller when you are an importer, right? A seller in Mexico, or a seller in some parts of Central America or South America. Okay. Now, the US importer, which is you, and the Mexican exporter, in this case, we will use Mexico as an example, negotiate the price, the date of shipment, and the type of documents is required, and so on and so on. Okay. Once that process is finished, which is step number one, the second step is the importer, you pay for the goods. Okay. We're talking about the general process now. You pay for the goods, or arrange with your bank to pay for the goods. In some cases, you might pay by credit card, or you have a deal with the seller, or exporter in that country, right? Then you can make an arrangement, whatever arrangement that you have. But the invoice have to reflect whatever arrangement that you see. That's what customs is interested as to the value of the goods, not how you made the arrangement as far as payment is concerned, because they don't care as to who you're going to pay and so on, provided that it is not a country that the United States doesn't have a relationship. Okay, so the U.S. importer, you will pay for the goods or arrange with the bank. The third in the process is the exporter sends the documents to the Mexican importer's bank, to your bank. Okay. All right. So after that, the Mexican exporter is notified to ship the goods, and the exporter ships the goods. And then the step number 6 is the Mexican exporter presents the documents to get paid. In other words, he have to submit the documents to his bank so that it shows the proof that he shipped, and the bank will pay him. And the step number 7 is the U.S. importer claims the goods. This is a very general kind of a flow of documents. And this involves like the importer's bank, the exporter's bank, the importer, and the exporter. So that there are 4 parties in this transaction. We might do it. I mean, those of you who might be importing, but that's basically what you are doing. It's just a way to help those who are not familiar. Now, what specific documents you need to show customs? Bill of lading, which is a document that is used for when the goods are shipped through ocean. If it's by ocean, it's bill of lading. If it's by air, it's airway bill. Airway bill is you complete most of the cases. If it's a small shipment through UPS or FedEx or DHL, that's the form that you complete is an airway bill if it's going overseas, okay, or is coming from overseas. Commercial invoice would show customs how much you paid for the goods so that they can assess duty. These are customs forms, entry for immediate delivery and entry summary. Those are 2 forms that every importer have to complete. There are specific dates that have to be completed. The Form CF341 have to be completed, I think, within 15 days. Then the entry summary will be completed in 10 days after the goods enter. Okay. The fourth one is packing list. Packing list is very important for customs. Most often customs might not look or examine the goods physically, right? So they see the packing list, you have this item, these products, and based on the packing list would release the goods. You can imagine how many containers coming here in the United States. I think it's about 24 million or so. So in each container, there might be boxes. Within that box, there might be small boxes and so on. So it would be very, very difficult for customs to check every box that come in. They use technology. They use, other means also, whether it's a dog sniffing and so forth, to at least reduce the risk. But most often they rely on the importer, and that's why they want you to exercise a reasonable care that the importer is providing them the right document and the right product that match with the documents. And the other government agencies that we talked about, FDA, FCC, and Department of Agriculture, DOA. Okay, moving on. I just want to say a few words about the harmonized tariff schedule, which I think is very important to know. If you are going to import, you're going to have, you have to know what your HTS is, which is harmonized tariff schedule. And this is a universally accepted number. If you give that number to your seller in Mexico, just that number, they will know exactly what that product is, okay? Or to any South American or Asian country or African country, those 6 digits describe the product, and that product, it have to be the same, for the the code for that product that you're importing. So it is very important. This makes it more difficult is when the product have several components, like cotton and if plastic. So there are 2 products there, right? A cotton is different from a plastic, right? Customs might think, okay, where does this cotton came from, and where does this plastic came from, and how did you merge them, and so forth. So they might ask you to more or less classify them separately, which can be very, very difficult, especially for a person who is just starting to import. Just to kind of give you as to what the harmonized schedule number looks like, this is a 10 digits number. The first 6 digits are universal. Okay, the first 6 digits are universal, exactly what I said before. If we give them a 6-digit number, exactly they know what you are talking about, in whether it's in Mexico or in Canada or in China and so on. The other 4 digits are used for the US. And those 4 digits, 2 of them are for duty, how much tax you're going to pay, and the other 2 are for statistics purposes that US Customs use. A country can have 7 digits, a country can have 10 digits, 12 digits, whatever, but the 6 digits are universal, the same for every country, okay? And they are reviewed every year. And this is the thing that I was talking about before, generalized system of preference. I remember I was talking about 3rd world countries that the United States gives some kind of a privilege to get a piece of the pie, so to speak, from the US market. These are eligible countries. So if you want to think about an eligible country here, if you're planning to, let's say, from South America, you go through this list and identify those countries that are eligible for that, so that your tariff or duty will be much, much lower, or there might not be even any duty for that product when it is imported from this eligible countries. It's kind of difficult to see it on the screen maybe, but definitely I'll go to the HS and find this under general system of preference, generalized system of preference. Okay, I talked before about RTA, regional trade agreements. This is the countries that the United States have trade agreements. Of course, USMCA, which is the biggest. United States, Canada, and Mexico, which was, I think, last year, I believe, no, 2 years ago, that was changed from NAFTA to USMCA. I think it's about 2 years. But anyway, it's now USMCA, and it's a trade agreement. I mean, there wasn't a lot of change. There were some changes, experts say, but definitely it's very important that you get the benefit from this countries, because the tariff or the duty is going to be less, and also the restrictions are less in a way, provided that you comply with the agreement. And then you have the DR-CAFTA, which is Dominican Republic, Central American Free Trade Agreement. Those countries like the Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, definitely are also part of an RTA, or regional trade agreement, with the United States. And think about or consider getting goods from there as well, because again, for the same benefit that you might get from NAFTA, from the USMCA. But USMCA is big. I mean, there's a lot of products that definitely would qualify. Almost all products qualify. Then other countries that the United States have a trade agreement also is Australia, Bahrain, Chile, Panama, Peru, Singapore, South Korea, Jordan, Israel, and Colombia. So those are other countries that you definitely want to look at. Now, as far as products is concerned, if you cannot find from these countries and also from the GSP, is to use what they call trade leads. Trade leads are, I don't know if you're familiar with a company called Alibaba.com. There are several of them like that, which it's a platform where you can post a product that you want to import. Then an exporter from that country will contact you. So it is like a matching kind of platform, similar to the other matchings platforms that are used for different purposes. Sometimes I give an example of, like Match.com or Harmony.com. Definitely, the concept is the same. It's just that they use it for different purposes, because this is trade, and that the other platforms might be for personal communication and relationship and so on. Okay, but think about this, first before you move on to another country that you might want to import. Okay, I think this is quickly that I want to briefly talk about the payment, how you pay the seller. If it's advance payment, you will pay in advance, and the seller would ship you the goods. If it's an open account, the seller would ship the goods, and you will pay. If it's a consignment, you will pay the seller after the goods are sold, after you sold them. Similar to the consignment that we have here, document recollection is a process also that involves certain documents have to be exchanged between the buyer and the seller. And finally is a letter of credit, which is the most common method of payment, especially if the value of your goods exceed 15 or even about $12,000, from $12,000 or above, maybe you should consider using the other methods instead of a letter of credit, because the letter of credit have some kind of fees that is involved with it, even though it's more secure than the others, but you have to make a decision as to whether it justifies. The rest of the slides are again, resources. Hopefully that would be of help. I think we are up on time. If we have any questions, definitely I'll be more than happy to share. If I don't have an answer for your question, I certainly would be more than happy to research it and provide you the resource that you might need. Okay. Gustavo,
somebody have? Okay. Somebody have one question? ¿Alguien tiene alguna pregunta que quisiera hacer? Okay. I have a question, Dr. Tekle.
Yes.
For example, what skills do I need it import?
Okay, that's a good question, and I think I touched it basic at the beginning. We talked about the planning, right? You really have to have some kind of a plan, a structured plan. Definitely, you need to know exactly what you are doing here. I mean, we're learning here, right? I mean, that's the process, and that's the kind of and more when I say no, I'm talking about specifically related to that of customs. What type of documents do you need? Okay, how are you going to pay your duty with the tariff that you're going to pay, or the tax for simple purposes that you're going to pay to customs, and marking your product. All this kind of things really add up. So definitely that is very important to know. And then, of course, like I said before, is the commitment that it takes. I mean, don't expect everything to go right at the beginning. If they do go right, my goodness, you are lucky, or in some ways maybe you have done your due diligence, which is great. But you know, the first shipment is always going to be shaky until you get used to the system of customs and so on. The second man might be also, and even the third one. After that, you become like an expert, especially if you are going to import the same product to the US, because the process will not change. So you can use what you've learned from the previous. And the other one, as I mentioned before, is the cultural aspect, the business practices, and that is a relationship. Definitely you have to have a relationship, because you know, it's just there could be a lot of things that can go wrong. So if you don't have a relationship, a good relationship, then goods can be delayed. Goods can be, you know, shipped in the wrong way, and so on. So having that relationship is also important. So those are some of the skills that I think are important to start with.
Thank you. I have other questions. Or somebody has have a questions. Oh, no. Let me check. Okay. We have a question in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Can you read, please? Can you see?
Okay. What was the name by who is
Norma Torres. Norma.
Okay. Norma. Maria.
Oh, no, Jessica. Jessica Dower, she translated the question.
Oh, she did? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, is it in the question?
She say, Sorry for the question. I don't know if you can help me if someone is in Mexico and is a clothing producer and he would like to know where he can contact customers and what product he needs.
Okay, to contact customers here, right? And the type of products that they need, right?
I think the producer is in Mexico.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the product will be sold here, right?
Here. Yeah. Maybe you comment about the Alibaba, right?
That's correct. Yeah. The Alibaba will be a good tool. It's a platform that you can use, but because it is going to be, once the goods enter into the United States, they become like a domestic product. Okay, like any product which is domestic. So basically, you will do the same thing if the product was made here, to market it, right? To find a buyer or to find a store where you can sell it. So I think that probably could be maybe if she can or he can send me an email or so later on, we can talk about how best she could research that, or how best information that she might need to help her. But you know, you do the same thing that you do here. Once the goods arrive, you know, it becomes like a domestic product, even though it came in from Mexico or Canada or another, and then you have to do the marketing things that you need to do to sell that product. So it becomes like a marketing issue.
Okay, perfect. We have time for one question.
Okay.
More. ¿Alguien quiere hacer alguna pregunta adicional o la quiere escribir en español y Jessica nos las puede traducir? No tengan pena.
Okay. Is Jessica
okay
translating? Yeah.
Okay, I have other questions.
Okay.
I want to import spices from South America.
South America. Okay.
What advice do you have?
Yeah. Okay, that's a good question, because many probably have you know, families or friends and so forth that can ship a justified quantity of spices here. Well, first of all, you really have to know what exactly the spice is, right? What kind of spice is it? You definitely want to know as to where it is grown, that spice, and what they have used to grow those spices. Okay, because customs might you know, require you to or through the Department of Agriculture might require you to provide them more information on the specific spices. It's not like, you know, you just package it and send it to the United States and will clear customs. I think that's what I was talking about before. You talk to the Center for Excellence and Expertise. You tell them, okay, this is exactly the spice that I want to import from this country, let's say from Mexico. Okay, what do I need to clear customs with that, for that product? And most often what happens is those exporters in Mexico know what it is required. Okay, but if you don't have somebody who is knowledgeable, then you can start from here, ask questions to the Center of Excellence and Expertise, and they will give to you some information, and based on that information, then you will make a decision, because that is something that is taken internally. It's like food, right? And when it comes to food products, or when it comes to even certain drinks, definitely customs wants to be careful in a way that the goods are appropriately packaged, the goods are grown in a proper way, not just kind of a wild growth. So they will ask a lot of questions to find out exactly before the customer here, the US here, customer uses that product. So the Center of Excellence and Expertise. And the other thing also is to check in Mexico if that supplier have some kind of a contact with exporters in Mexico or knowledgeable about shipping spices into the United States.
Excellent, Dr. Tekle. Thank you for all this presentation. It's great. I will to share with all the businesses in the social media if you are agree. And the time is over. So thank you for your presentation. Thank you for everything. Gracias a todos. Have happy Thanksgiving. Gracias a todos. Tengan una excelente día de gracias y nos vemos en la próxima. Thank you for everything. I will see you in the next info session. Thank you.
Sí, muchas gracias, Gustavo. Gracias a todos. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming also, and have a good Thanksgiving holiday.
Hasta luego. Thank you.
You too.
Gracias,
Thank you.
Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica.